Well, my name is James Franke. I'm a full-time foreign missionary and evangelist, and I wanted to share with you a story of a Lenten fast that I undertook last year. Last year I had the blessed opportunity to return back here to Franciscan University, to my alma mater, where I graduated a number of years ago. And while I was here, I had some incredibly anointed conversations with some good friends of mine. And they called me on. They called me on to something more. Living the life of a missionary, I thought I was living a pretty good and pretty holy life already. But I realized that God wanted more from me. He wanted more from me physically and spiritually. He wanted me to be completely His. And I realized that to do that, I needed to get rid of some things that I had formerly thought were my dependence, some things that I lived on before. And one of those actually happened to be food. So last year I was here. It was midway through Lent. I had 3 weeks left to go until Easter Sunday. And I had a conversation with a friend about fasting, and he really called me on to pray about it, to consider. Not saying you have to fast, but to pray about fasting and to see if God was calling me to it. And I realized God was calling me to it because He was calling me to be holy, and He was calling me to be more completely His. And so in that, I decided that I was going to do the rest of my Lent fasting. I wasn't going to be eating anything but bread. So I did 2 weeks on just bread and water, and the third week, Holy Week, I did simply on water, and then the daily receiving of the Eucharist, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus. And I was sharing with my friend about my experience and how radically transformed my Lent became because of that fasting, because I wasn't giving up just me on Fridays. I wasn't giving up Starburst. I wasn't giving up Facebook. These things that are good to give up, but these things that God really has no delight in. God delights in us giving Him our hearts, giving Him our beings, to learn how to control ourselves. And to do that, I needed to get rid of all of my desires and passions, and hunger is one of those. So I began fasting on bread, and it was difficult. And the first few days I had hunger pains, my stomach was in knots, and I was like, God, is this really for me? And He said, look at the cross, look and see how much I suffered. And so my hunger became nothing in comparison to the cross. After a few days, my hunger transformed. I was no longer hungry just for bread. I was hungry for the Lord, for His Spirit, for His life, for His grace. In my fast, the scriptures came alive in a new way. Not only did they come alive, but the meaning became transformed in my eyes. I read in the Gospels where the Lord is saying that man does not live on bread alone, and I had never fully understood that until I gave up food, until I gave up eating, and I realized that when I was hungry, I didn't have to turn to food. When I was hungry, I could turn to the Lord and He would fill me up. And so that's what I did when I was working, when I was serving in missions. If I was hungry, I wouldn't go to the kitchen, I wouldn't go to the fridge, I would go to my Bible. I would go to that two-edged sword that the Lord has given me. I would open it up and I would read, and I would consume the words of God. I would consume the words that His Holy Spirit gave to me, and I would be filled. I would be filled by them, and then I would put my Bible aside and I would keep on serving and keep on loving and keep on sacrificing for God. So my Lent continued like that. The scriptures came alive, they jumped off the page, they started moving in my heart and transforming my life. That last week when I did it on just water, I was so blessed to know that I wasn't living because of something this world gave me. I was living because Jesus Christ gave me His body. I was receiving the Eucharist and He was sustaining me. And again, that hunger was no longer for bread, it was no longer for food, it was for Jesus and His Spirit, and for His love and His grace and His life. And then Holy Saturday came, and the Easter Vigil came, and I had one of the most incredible evenings of my life. I was sitting there at the St. John's Cathedral down in Lafayette, where we work as missionaries, and I was in the Easter Vigil, and we're reading all the readings, and then we get to that holy moment when we sing glory to God in the highest, and the Easter bells begin ringing, and you feel the Spirit of God descending upon His Catholic Church. And in that moment, I began to weep. I just lost it, and I was emotional, and I was joyful, and I was excited and ecstatic and just full of the Lord. And I asked God. I said, God, why am I feeling all of this now? I never have this feeling on Easter. I'm always excited for the resurrection, but never like this. I've never felt this before. And the Lord answered me in the middle of that Easter Vigil, and He said, James, this Easter is special because you made this Lent special. because you sacrificed, you were able to fully enter into my sacrifice. Because you gave up your passions and your desires, I was able to give you mine. And my passion is for your heart, and my desire is for you to know me more fully. My desire is for you to reject this world and to reject its comfort, because you were made for more than comfort. You were made for greatness. And that was the beginning of a life that will be full of fasting and full of offering that up to the Lord and thanking Him for the amazing grace that He has given me to sacrifice in that way for Him. So that was last year. That was last Easter. This year, it's Lent 2012, and I extended my fast this year. It's a full Lenten fast. Some variations in it, but it's going to be ending the same way. It's going to be ending in that cathedral, praising God that my Easter is special because I made my Lent special once again for Him. So that's my story, and that's fasting. Pray about it and see how God is calling you to fast.